Hello, everyone, and welcome into the show. I'm Jonathan Messer, host of the Boobie Show, and this is my second episode here. Um, a few housekeeping things. First episode, got that up. I appreciate all the support. Go follow the Instagram. That's at Boobie Sports Show as well. Um, like I said, I appreciate all the support on the first show. Some of the cut ups did really well as well. The playoff cut up did very well, and we're gonna continue to do that because I think that'll probably be our most trafficked videos. Um, Today we're recording under much better circumstances, so there should be a little more energy. Won't be too quiet. It won't be so rushed. But this episode shouldn't be as long if it goes the way I hope. Um, but let's go ahead and just jump right into it. So obviously I posted my playoff predictions, just seeding, but I'm ready to give my national championship predictions. And yes, so Kansas State's in it, UNLV's in it. I'm still gonna give you what I had, simply because I don't believe in changing it even after week 0. Week 0 is kind of a soft deadline anyway. So let's go ahead and get into it. Reminder of my seeding. I had Alabama at number 1. I had Penn State at number 2. Clemson at number 3. Texas at number 4. So those are my 4 first round byes. Then Notre Dame at number 5. Ohio State at number 6. Florida at number 7. Oregon at number 8. Arizona State at number 9. Kansas State at number 11. Georgia excuse me. Kansas State at number 10. Georgia at number 11. UNLV at number 12. Okay. We're going to talk about UNLV later in the show, I promise. We're also going to talk about Kansas State. But for right now, let's just stick to the playoffs. I have Oregon and Arizona State playing in the 8-9 game. I have Oregon winning that game. I think Dante Moore shows it. I said in my prior episode that I think Dante Moore is going to finish as a top 15 quarterback this year. And I think he shows it in that game. Arizona State also has to go to Eugene. That's one of the most difficult places to play in college football. So, in a very close game, and I think it'll be close. I think Arizona State's got a lot of good football players. They got a lot of returning production that's really good. They got a starting quarterback coming back, a transfer in from Army at running back. They got a great defense. I mean, you only replace one starter on defense. So you got guys. But I do take Oregon to win that game. They move on and play Alabama at number 1. 5 verse 12, I have UNLV going to Notre Dame. Sadly, UNLV looked horrible. I predicted them to be here, but obviously they're going to get their tail handed to them if they get there. I got Notre Dame beating UNLV in South Bend in a very not close football game. They will take on Texas in the second round. Now, I have Florida and Kansas State playing in the 7-10 game. Kansas State obviously lost. They can still get here. Tougher road because they got to win out, but they can still get here. I have Florida winning this game. Probably a close football game. I would say backdoor cover, if that. Because Kansas State's got guys. Avery Johnson is a guy. Jace Brown is a guy. So you don't, especially teams with great culture like Kansas State and these other teams from the Big 12, you don't just blow them out. Usually, that doesn't just happen, especially in today's college football. Now, you go back to 2019, LSU, Oklahoma. I call that a different story because we weren't in the age of talent acquisition as we are now in NIL. Nonetheless, I take Florida to win that game and face Penn State. Lastly, this game, if you were able to look at my notes right now, you would see I have this game scribbled out twice because I flipped back and forth. Georgia going into Ohio State. This would be one of the greatest college football playoff matchups as far as name recognition goes of all time, even including the 4-team playoff. But in this game, I have Ohio State beating Georgia. Why? Well, I don't know. Simply hard to predict game, especially this far from. I mean, playoff takes place in December and January, so this far removed from that, it's so hard to make a choice here. That's why I went back and forth. The reason I took Ohio State is because I want you to close your eyes, sit back and visualize 5-star talent. I got my eyes closed right now. 5-star talent. Julian saying throws a deep ball to Jeremiah Smith right at the end of the second, right at the end of the first half. Goes up 2 scores against Georgia. That's a scary sight, especially if you're a Georgia fan. It was hard. I think that game would be insanely close. I'm talking Jack Sawyer picked. Obviously, Jack Sawyer's not there anymore, but throw back to last year. Jack Sawyer picks up a strip sack on 4th down on the goal, pretty much a goal line for Texas, and runs it back in backdoor cover. That type of thing. So, very close game, but I would take Ohio State just because I don't think Georgia's the same Georgia this year. Now, future years, Georgia's still the number 1 program. Don't get me wrong. Please don't get me wrong. They have the best coach in college football. They are the best program in college football. But this year might be a little setback. Okay, round 2. Who do we got? We got Oregon versus number 8 Oregon versus number 1 Alabama. Dante Moore's run ends here. I think Bama would win this game. I think Bama will end up being the best team in the country. Not right now, but once they get cemented, Ty Simpson gets some reps in there, I think they'll end up being the number 1 team in the nation. In the playoff, I would take Alabama to win that game. Notre Dame versus Texas, number 4 versus number 5. I have Texas right now power rated at number 1. Right now. Neutral site favorability. I think Texas is favored over anyone. I would pick them to win against anyone. But I'm taking Notre Dame in this game. And let me tell you why. Notre Dame's defense this year will be unbelievable, and especially in the secondary. Notre Dame's secondary could be a historic secondary this year. And if you don't believe me, go look at the production from last year and the talent stepping up to make a plays this year. Ridiculous. I'm taking Notre Dame in this game. Number 7, Florida versus number 2, Penn State. I would take Penn State. Penn State's just too good. If just as far as being built to win a national championship and to win multiple ways, Penn State's that. And I think Florida can win multiple ways this year. If DJ Lagway goes down, you have one of the best offensive lines in college football, paired with Jaden Ball and Jacoby Jackson in the backfield. That's a scary duo. So obviously Florida can win multiple ways this year, but Penn State's just a better football team. James Franklin is an experienced coach, not necessarily in the playoff. He's only been to the playoff once, but he's coached in big games. Granted, they've lost a lot of them, but I think Penn State wins this football game. Moving to our 3 versus 4 game in the quarterfinals, Clemson versus Ohio State. Clemson's very experienced. They're tied with Arizona State for number 1 in returning production. Dabo Swinney's been there before. Obviously, Ryan Day has too. But with as good of a team Clemson has, I think Ohio State might tend to make a few hiccups this year, and I would take Clemson just because simply Cade Klubnik. I think Cade Klubnik's going to be the best college football quarterback this year. Okay, in the semifinals, that gives us number 1 Alabama versus number 5 Notre Dame. Obviously, everyone remembers what happens when Alabama plays Notre Dame in the past. 2012, 2020. It's been unmerciful butt whoopings. I don't think this would be that. I think Notre Dame has solidified themselves, especially last year under Marcus Freeman, as true national championship contenders. I don't think it's obviously the loss to Northern Illinois last year, that's embarrassing, but I don't think it's the team that hiccups all the time and loses multiple games like that. I think Notre Dame's here to stay. Their talent acquisition is elite. Look at their classes coming up. top 5, top 10 classes, Brian Kelly wasn't necessarily doing that. So, with that being said, I do think Bama would still win. I think this game would be insanely close, and I could see Notre Dame winning this game. And that's something you're going to see this year with teams. The margin of, let me rephrase that. The gap between these teams are not the same. If I go look at my power ratings right now for week 1, the gap between Texas and number 15 Arizona State, for me, would probably be 10 points, give or take. Any given year, the gap between 1 and 15 is sometimes 17 points. With that being said, I still do think Bama wins this game and moves on to the national championship. I think by then Ty Simpson will be clicking, and his supporting cast is the best supporting cast in college football. Penn State versus Clemson. What a game this is. This is a prove-it game, man. Penn State, they can't win the big game. Every year they lose to the big teams. James Franklin can't get it done. You know who else couldn't get it done? Kirby Smart. You know who else couldn't get it done? Ryan Day. Spoiler alert, they got it done. And I think James Franklin does it. Clemson has a lot to prove here as well. That their way of college football can stand. Because they've been building to this year. This is the year that Clemson has circled. And I think they really do have a great year, obviously making it to the semifinals, earning a first-round bye, and winning the ACC. But I think they lose a very, very close game. Like, very, very close. As close as games get. But I do have Penn State winning this and setting a beautiful helmet game, a beautiful original and traditional uniform game. I'm a big flashy guy when it comes to uniforms, but I love the traditional uniforms, and the traditional uniform game in this matchup is as beautiful as it's going to get. In this game, Drew Aller shines. I think Drew Aller goes off. I think Bama's secondary is able to make a few plays that really put them in position to win, and I think Ty Simpson steps up and wins this game for Alabama. I think this game, obviously it's a national championship, so everyone's going to be watching, but I think this game right here solidifies Ty Simpson as a household name. I think Ryan Williams goes off, even though I really do like A.J. Harris and the rest of that Penn State secondary. I think Ryan Williams goes off, and I think Alabama wins this game. I think Alabama's offensive line starts to lean on Penn State, even though Penn State has a great defensive line. I think Alabama just has a little bit more. I think that talent gap plays a role here. Even though both of these teams have good talent rosters, Bama has better talent roster. I think some of those stars really start to shine here. And I think Alabama's the national champion of this year. Oh, Kalen DeBoer, he can't recruit the South. He can't go in there and win. Well, I think he does it. That should shut a lot of the people up. So, quick intermission here till we go to our next segment. I've done a lot of self-scouting. That's a term I like to use when I sit back and I watch the show. It wasn't, first show wasn't perfect. I told y'all there were going to be some growing pains, some learning curves. Main thing, and I'm sure you guys noticed, was the ums and the and I did it a few times in that first segment, but I'm trying my hardest not to. You get in front of a microphone, it's a little more difficult. So, work with me. Please keep supporting. It really does help out. All right, let's move on to our second segment. Kansas State loses to Iowa State in Farmagedon in Dublin, Ireland, 21-24. I got some takeaways for you. Number one, am I the only one who felt like this game, that Kansas State, I'm not going to say dominated because it obviously wasn't dominant, but it felt like Kansas State kind of controlled the game most of the game. And the first half was disgusting. Halftime at 7-7, it's gross. 2 fumbles by each team. Obviously, the rain played a factor, but it was just sloppy football. Iowa State's offensive line and pass pro looked horrible. That's something I have on here. Kansas State's pass rush was amazing. It was amazing. That can be a reason. That can be something that carries them into a playoff spot this year. When you have a pass rush, especially a fourth quarter pass rush, that gets you there. Well, they didn't have it in the fourth quarter. Rocco Becht surprised me because he didn't look very good this game. He went for 14 for 28, 50% completion percentage there, 183 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 12 rushes, 18 yards. He had a rushing touchdown. In the second half, Kansas State dropped an easy interception right to him. It was the start of the fourth quarter. That could have changed the game completely. But as we know, Rocco Becht is a gamer. You know, I compare. Well, let me just say when I say gamer, I mean guys who get in the game and they let their instincts take over. And he did that. 12 rushes for 18 yards doesn't sound like much, but his legs took over and he improvised Iowa State to a win. If you watch the second half, he wasn't throwing well, and I don't think he was making great reads while throwing the ball, but he willed his team to a victory using his legs. Like I mentioned before, Iowa State's pass rush or pass protection was horrible. Just putrid. And even they couldn't run the ball in the first half. I don't know why necessarily. It looked like Abu Sama really took on the lead carries in the first half, but then in the second half, Iowa State started to lean on Kansas State. Kansas State's pass rush was still doing well, but they could not stop the run. They ran it up the gut every time. Abu Sama got the carries in the third, and they brought Carson Hansen out fresh, and you could tell. 16 carries for 71 yards, most of them in the second half. He was fresh, he was ready to go, and he was running through faces. Joe Jackson had to step up for Kansas State in the running game. Dylan Edwards got hurt on the muffed punt. I'm not going to speculate about injury. People on Twitter's just a disgusting place, but it's a good tool, and people are trashing him, saying he's not actually hurt. He's just mad he muffed the punt. I'm not going to speculate on that. I'm going to treat it like he was injured. Joe has to step up, and I think he did a pretty good job, especially in the first half. They couldn't run the ball very well in the second half, but he had finished 12 carries for 51 yards, no touchdowns. But like I said before, Jace Brown he had a great game for Kansas State. Had a big touchdown at the end of the game to keep them in it, even though they ended up losing. He was 4 receptions, 78 yards, and a touchdown, and he also had 29 rushing yards. So he balled out. Sucks that they weren't able to get it done for him, but it happens. Brett Elksenden. I can't pronounce his last name. I'm so sorry. He's Iowa State receiver. He's a sophomore. He led them in receiving. He had 3 receptions, 46 yards, and a touchdown. Iowa State secondary though looked horrible. Jace Brown snuck past them at the end of the game. Iowa State goes up by 10 points, but they let a deep ball go. That's something you got to get cleaned up if you want to win, because it's just one of those reasons for me. It really felt like Kansas State controlled this football game, and they just lost. Avery Johnson balled out. He started a little slow. Stuff wasn't clicking. Stuff wasn't firing. But Avery Johnson started, and he got going. Then he proved why he was one of the best quarterbacks in college football. He didn't make the boneheaded mistakes. He didn't throw the picks. He went 21 of 30, 273 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 21 rushing yards, and a touchdown. He balled out. He looked much better than Rocco Becht did, and it was alarmingly better. But Rocco Becht got them the win. I don't think Kansas State's season's over. They can run the table, and they can win the Big 12. Seriously. When you get a game like this in the first part of the season, and we got a lot of them, especially week 1, they matter, obviously, but they can help you grow, and you can go on a run. Iowa State has some stuff to clean up, but if that offensive line is going to be able to lean on people, they're going to be able to win a lot of football games. a lot of football games. Carson Hansen comes in fresh. They got Abu Sama. That's a great backfield. That can help take a little bit of the pressure off Rocco Becht when he's not playing very well, like he did in pretty much the whole game until the fourth quarter when he started improvising. But when you get a gamer like that, sometimes you just let him go game. Let's move merrily along. I'm going to take a sip of water. Excuse me. And we're just going to do... I got 2 short segments. Not even going to pop up too really any graphic. We're not going to spend too much time on it. I talked about in the playoff, with my playoff prediction, how bad UNLV looked. And my goodness, I was watching them play Idaho State while also watching the Kansas game. Kansas beat the crap out of Fresno. My goodness. Oh, and Jalen Daniels is better than your favorite quarterback. Sorry, hate to break it to you. Dude's a stud. Kansas might win the Big 12 this year. If you didn't already know that, you don't watch much Big 12 football. But they look great. Leipold has them really well suited, ready to go get wins. But this is a UNLV segment. My goodness. Bad. They couldn't stop the run or pass. I mean, they had 2 interceptions at the end of the game. They ended up forcing 3 picks the length of the game. But 300 yards passed on you by an FCS team who hasn't made the playoffs in over 20 years. It's horrible. 300 some odd yards. They couldn't stop the run. Close to 200 yards rushed on them. Just looked bad. Defense, that's something that, and I mean, look at Dan Mullen's last year, even his best year at Florida in 2020. Florida was a great team. Kyle Trask, Kyle Pitts, Damian Pierce, Kadarius Toney, Trayvon Grimes, like Jacob Copeland. That team was really good on offense, but that defense was putrid, and a lot of it was Grantham, but players regressed. Donovan Steiner regressed. Marco Wilson regressed. You know, Sean Davis wasn't playing for most of the season, but you had guys who really regressed. He needs to shake that. He needs to shake the whole can't coach a defense, just offensive guy. Because if he doesn't, UNLV won't work out. I stuck my neck out saying they'd make the playoffs, and I might be a chicken because, my goodness, my head's about to get cut off. Anthony Colandro looked good. He's a transfer from UVA, Virginia. He looked really good. I think he overshot a few deep balls. That's stuff that can get cleaned up. Dan Mullen is a good quarterback coach. He can clean that up. Alex Orji looked good when he got playing time. He's kind of like the scat back guy. That's what they're using him as. Jaden Thomas at running back looked really good. I think he had 160 yards. And Jaden Bradley, if he wasn't a redshirt senior and he had another year of eligibility, he would be playing for any college football team he wanted to. Dude's a stud, balled out. Not going to make a cut for this section or the next segment. Just thought I'd touch on it because I had him in my playoffs and it's not looking too good right now, is it? Also, Thursday, we get a touch of great action. And this is, it's funny. My brother talks about real football and just watching something. And I love Maction, Maction midweek, Wednesday football, Eastern Michigan. I love it. Well, this ain't throwaway football. We got Boise State at USF. 2 of the best Group of 5 football teams in the nation. And this game, believe it or not, has playoff implications. And I'm ready to give you my prediction on it. Short little segment, shouldn't go over 3 minutes here. Not going to do a cut on it. I just thought I'd give you some of my thoughts. Boise State's favored by 6.5. They got Maddox Madsen is back at quarterback. Latrell Caples is back at receiver. 400-yard guy looking to make a step. Malik Sherrod, he's a running back from Fresno State. Didn't produce necessarily much, but watch the film. Kid's a stud. My possibly group of 5 MVP, though, tight end Matt Lauder at Boise State. Just you want a guy who will get on the line up and block and secure that outside on a buck sweep. That's a guy who'll do it. You want a guy who's going to go down the field, moss a short safety, a tall safety even, and then run and get that yak for a touchdown. He's going to do it. That's a name to watch, and that's a name to watch for the NFL draft too. Moving on to USF, Byron Brown is an elite quarterback. Dude should not be playing at USF. That's all you need to know about him. Dude's a stud. Keshawn Singleton is back at receiver. Great production last year. Chase Nimrod is a transfer receiver from UT. Only about 170 yards last year. But that's a Power 5 talent transferring down to USF. USF has a great coaching staff. I think they can get him coached up to really, really help Byron Brown. Cortavious Norton is a running back transfer. He's a senior from Charlotte. 600-yard guy last year. Big dude. Another dude who will run through your face. He's a great back. This game was actually really hard for me. Everyone's taking Boise State. And I wanted to take USF. 10 minutes before the show, I made my prediction. My original prediction was for USF. But I flipped to Boise State simply because I like the comfortability of Maddox Madsen. And I like the pedigree that Boise State carries. When Boise State steps on a football field, it don't matter if you're Alabama, you're respecting them. Obviously, you have to respect every opponent. But Boise State carries that, and they always have, ever since they beat Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl. I think that pedigree goes in to Tampa, and I think they beat USF. I think it's a very close game. Like I said, the spread is 6.5. I don't think they cover. I think it's that close, and I think this is a playoff implicating game. Moving along, we're about 27 minutes right now. I think we're making pretty good pace. I don't want to make this show too long. The shows that we have our poll are going to be longer just because we got to get through 25 teams. They shouldn't take as long because I think the cut-up was about 40 minutes possibly for the week 1 poll. But I had to touch on every team, seriously, to give you kind of a sense of what they got. Next poll drop will be next week on our Wednesday show. Shouldn't be as long because we have results. So we'll know a little bit more. Okay, moving to a segment that will get cut. This is the end point. So if you ever hear me say end point, that's just for me when I go back and do the show. Because I do this long form show, then I got the cut ups. That's just a spot for me to know, okay, right now is when I can go ahead and start the cut and roll into the next segment. So, excuse me. This is a good end point. Auburn goes to Baylor. Waco, Texas, Sick'em Bears on Friday night. What a beautiful week of action we have. Thursday, Boise State at USF. Friday, Auburn at Baylor. And then Saturday's just stacked. Go look. If you haven't just looked at the entirety of those games, go do it. Okay. A lot of question marks around this game. Lots of them. And, obviously the biggest one is Jackson Arnold. What's Jackson Arnold going to be? Last year, Jackson Arnold threw under 65% completion in 5 games. He played in 10 games because he got benched. 5 of those games, he threw for under 65 completion percentage. That's got to go up. That just proves the bad decision making. He had a game where he was under 50. Horrible. He also took 34 sacks, and that's where I think the bad decision making really showed because Oklahoma didn't have a great offensive line by any means. I don't even think it was very good, but 34 sacks in 10 games is on the quarterback. You can even say half of them Give half of them to the offensive line. If you're responsible for 16 sacks in 10 games, you got to look in the mirror. Do some self-scouting, as I said at the start. Obviously, we touched on their receiver core. And Auburn, is a team we already touched on a little bit, so I can kind of just skim through this. Got an elite receiving core. Running back. Running back's an issue. We know this. It's good. It was always going to be a question mark. Damari Alston is going to be the starting running back this week. How's that going to go? 3 offensive linemen are back. Xavier Chaplin's transferring in from Virginia Tech. We know what we got with him. That's a stud. That's one of the best left tackles in college football. Very talented team. When you get recruiting classes like Auburn has and transfer portal classes like Auburn has, it's going to be a lot of talent. But can they come through? Caleb Harris, Jay Crawford, Sylvester Smith, those are all guys in the defensive backfield. Can those guys, a lot of them sophomores, both Caleb Harris and Jay Crawford are sophomores, Sylvester Smith is a redshirt sophomore. Can they step up and make plays? DeMarcus Reddick, he has to step up. That's the key to a lot of these backfilling teams, reloading teams, is can these guys step up? Defensive line's in a question. I put it on in my notes as a hodgepodge of talent that's unproven guys who have been around a while but are unexperienced. And then you got a stud on the defensive line in Keldrick Falk. We know what we got in him. I think he's going to be the best player on Auburn's roster this year. Defensively, 52nd against the pass last year. That needs to improve, but that's not bad. That really isn't that bad, I promise you. 27th against the rush. That's good. That needs to be upheld. Can this team do that again with all the new faces? That'll be a question mark for me this year. And going into this game, because they got to face against one of the best running backs in the Big 12, and Bryson Washington. That's an 1,000-yard guy, 12 touchdowns. Dude runs behind his pads. Sawyer Robertson is back at quarterback, and one of the best quarterbacks in the Big 12, probably a top 5 quarterback in the Big 12. 62.2% completion on the year, 3,071 yards, and a 28-8 touchdown to interception ratio. Also added 300 yards on the ground. That's a good season. He's back. Josh Cameron, one of the best receivers in the Big 12, 52 receptions, 754 yards, and 10 touchdowns last year. Stud. Ashton Hawkins is back at receiver, 45 receptions, 567 yards, and 5 touchdowns. And then Kobe Prentice transfers in from Bama. It's an unproven guy with a lot of talent. Offensive line only gave up 19 sacks last year. That you got 3 guys coming back. That's a good offensive line. Moving down to the tight end, they have one of the best tight ends in the Big 12. 30 receptions, 395 yards, 3 touchdowns last year. Also got a great defense. But just like Auburn, they need some guys to step up. And these are sound football players, but they're not the 4 and 5 stars. Carl Williams is a junior. He needs to take a step up. Tevin Williams is battle-tested. He's waited his turn. He's a redshirt senior, former 3-star guy at corner, but he's battle-tested but needs to take a step up. A lot of these twos got a lot of PT. Not a lot, but some good PT last year. That's why I say they're battle-tested. Devin Bobbie is one of the best safeties in the Big 12. He's a senior. That's something is a sure commodity back there. DJ Coleman has waited his turn, is very, very battle-tested. He's gotten his PT as a 2. He's a junior at safety. You want to see him really instill himself as one of the best duos with Devin Bobbie. Caden Jenkins, he's back at cornerback. Stud, but needs to take a step forward. He's a junior. Okay, let's get into my prediction and my key matchups in this game. Baylor was 72nd against the run. With Auburn's questions at the running game, who wins that battle? Who wins the unproven unknown? They were 94th against the pass. You had some guys leave that secondary. You got guys filling their shoes, stepping up. Can that be Jackson Arnold's, all right, get right? Is that his get right stat? Because he's got the receivers. I promise you he's got the receivers. We know they're receivers. Can that be his get right stat? Can he move around in the pocket, and can he deliver those receivers the football? Against Baylor's secondary, who is a very unproven commodity. Funny enough, I have Baylor's DBs versus Auburn's receivers, and also Auburn's DBs versus Baylor's receivers. Obviously, those are both matchups. You can pick out any matchup in the game you want to, but those both really stick out because both teams have very proven, very talented receiver cores, but their secondaries are not shaky, and I'm not going to say bad because they're just a question mark. They're a little unproven. Which unproven steps up and solidifies himself as a known commodity? Baylor's defense in the box to be exact. Are they going to stack the box? What are they going to do? But whoever's in the box, what do they do against Auburn's O-line and returning production? Auburn gave up 27 sacks last year. That's not very good. That's below average, I would say. They got 3 guys coming back. Xavier Chaplin transfers in, like I mentioned before. Can that returning production doesn't necessarily mean wins or better. So can they take a step forward? Can Auburn rush the passer? Can Auburn rush the passer? Excuse me for the stumble. Falk needs to get back there. It's some unproven guys on the D line and in the box for Auburn. Can they get to Sawyer Robertson because he can move around. He can get out of the pocket. He can evade the pocket. What you saw Rocco Beck do in the second half, he can do better and actually run and get yards. Rocco Beck obviously can too, but Sawyer Robertson can do it better. Can Auburn's running game take pressure off of Jackson Arnold? Are we going to get a back to step up for Auburn? Because if Jackson Arnold has to sit back there and throw 45 passes, if there's 45 passing attempts for Jackson Arnold, I think Auburn loses this game. There has to be some relief because you can't be one-dimensional. Now, there's also the other hand on that where they could just be flinging around the yard because Keon Coleman and Nicholas Singleton is balling out. And they're cooking those unproven guys from Baylor because they've been waiting their turn for a reason because they haven't been ready. And they still aren't ready. Did Dave Aranda do enough to fix his defense? Obviously, I read the stats from last year. 72nd in run defense, 94th in pass defense. I believe in Dave Aranda. I like Dave Aranda a lot. I think there's a reason he hasn't lost his job yet. Great defensive-minded coach. He's waited his turn at Baylor to be the head coach, had some ups and downs, but I believe in him. I think they get it fixed. How does it stack up in week 1, though? That's an interesting thing to look at. And the last key to this game is, can Jackson Arnold limit the turnovers, limit the dumb mistakes, limit the sacks? Can he get rid of the ball instead of holding on to the ball for 30 years? However that goes, and even moving into this year, not just that game, that will be the story of Auburn football. Okay. Auburn is favored by 2.5 points at Baylor. The money line is minus 134 for Auburn, Baylor plus 112. The over-under is 57.5 points. My key impact play. Let me clarify something too. My impact players are who I think are like the best players on each side of the ball. So obviously, any quarterback's going to impact the game because he's the quarterback. But that's not necessarily what I'm looking for when I'm talking about impact players. So I thought I'd get that out of the way, a little clarification. Impact players on offense for Baylor are Sawyer Robinson at quarterback, Josh Cameron at receiver, and Bryson Washington at running back. Those are 3 guys who are studs and can carry that offense. For Auburn, I have Cam Coleman, stud wide receiver. Nicholas Singleton, stud wide receiver, and Xavier Chaplin transferred in from Auburn. Transferred in from Virginia Tech at left tackle. Look at the weapons that Jackson Arnold has. What's he going to do with them? On defense, my impact players for Baylor are Devin Brown at safety. Excuse me for the pause. Jackie Marshall on the edge. And Keaton Thomas at linebacker. Excuse me. Oh my goodness. Let me go back. Sorry. I said Devin Brown. I meant Devin Bobbie. Sorry for the mispronunciation. And see, that's something I'm going to grow with. I promise you I'm going to get better. It's going to take a little bit of time. With that still being said, that's a good core group. Those are guys who are experienced. Jackie Marshall's going to be one of the best edge rushers in the Big 12, possibly college football this year. Moving on to Auburn, I have Kendrick Falk, also going to be one of the best edge rushers in his respective conference in the SEC. Deontay Lawson at linebacker, and then I have Kalen Lee at corner. Kalen Lee's a guy who really needs to step up, but I think will. I think he's going to prove a lot, and I think he's going to do Auburn well in the secondary. With all that being said, my pick has changed in the past 10 or so minutes before the show. I flip-flopped on this game. If you would have asked me last night, I would have told you Auburn. And I know I have Auburn at 23 in my power ranking, but this game takes place in Waco. It's week 1, and I'm taking the Baylor Bears. Sick 'em Bears, and I think they win outright, not just against the spread. I think this game's going to be very back and forth. I think Auburn could get up, and it just flip, flip-flop. We'll see how it goes. I can see this game going many, many different ways. Obviously, I do think it's going to be back and forth. But if you told me Saturday or Friday night that Auburn won this game 30-10, I'd believe you. If you said Baylor won 30-10, I'd believe you. If you said Baylor won 18-14, I'd believe you. If you said Auburn won 18-14, I'd believe you. I think this game's margin of victory is very wide, sort of like the Texas-Ohio State game, which we're going to predict on the Friday show. The reason I ended up flipping my prediction is I think Baylor's experienced guys give them the edge in a game that goes blow for blow. Pause. But seriously, I think the experience up front and on the offensive side of the ball mainly really carries them in this game against a very unproven Auburn team. Like I said before, I think Auburn can win this game, and it wouldn't surprise me at all. But I got Baylor starting 1-0 and Auburn taking their first loss in week 1. Moving on to our next segment. We take a sip of water. You know, talking this emphatically for a while takes a little toll on your voice. You know, I'm built for it, though. I love doing it. I'm very excited about this show, if you can't tell. I think it's going to take off. But now it's time to get into a little bit of NFL. We got some big news coming from Washington and Cincinnati. Like I told you guys in our first episode, this is going to be mostly college football, but we are also going to talk NFL. We're going to talk college basketball and maybe sprinkle in a little bit of NBA. Well, today's one of those shows. We're talking NFL. Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry, Scarence Terrence, signs a 3-year, $96 million deal. We don't know the details yet necessarily as far as guarantee money, incentives, that type of stuff, but we know it's a $30 million bonus, signing bonus up front. Terry McLaurin is a guy that Washington needs. Jane Daniels goes into his second year. You trade for Deebo Samuel. You just traded Brian Robinson, but Bill Merritt is looking very, very good, looks very promising. You go trade for Laramie Tunsil. You draft Josh Connerly in the first round. This is a team that's been built for Jane Daniels, but Terry has to be on the field for that, and he will be now. Terry McLaurin is a top 10 wide receiver, borderline top 5. He's the best contested catch football player at any level. He wins over 60% of his contested catches. That's unheard of. When you throw the ball in the air, it's not a 50-50 ball. It's a 60-40 ball when it's Terry McLaurin. And not to mention the value he adds as a leader. You can pause this video right now. Actually, finish watching this video. Like, comment, subscribe. And then go watch Terry McLaurin's speech to the Washington receiving corps before the Lions game. Son, that will get you ready to run through a wall. Oh, goodness. But seriously, the dude is a leader on that team. He's been there. He's going into his 7th year. He's been a 1,000-yard guy every single year, except for his rookie year. He was 900 yards, even though he missed 2 or 3 games. He had his best year as a receiver last year. 13 touchdowns. Washington needs him. He's back. He's practicing. He's going to play. Big news for him. Because Washington's geared up to make a push for the East in a Super Bowl run. Moving on to Cincinnati, Trey Hendrickson signs a 1-year deal, $14 million. One of two things is either going to happen here. Next year, they're either going to tag him or he's going to be traded. This might be his last year in Cincinnati, but it's big news for this year because Joe Burrow needs the pressure taken off of him. There's no way Joe Burrow should ball out like he did at the start of the season and then still go 4-8 to begin the year. Horrible. Putrid defense. Trey Hendrickson had 17.5 sacks back-to-back years. That's ridiculous. In 2023, he had 16 tackles for loss, and last year he had 19. He's gotten better. He's getting better, and he's already elite. That's a guy you need to keep around. We all know the whole Shamar Stewart situation with the contract negotiations with Cincinnati out the gate after being drafted. I don't know who's running the show at GM necessarily. I'm sorry I don't know the name, but they need to get their stuff together because Trey Hendrickson really needs to stay in Cincinnati for longer than just this next year because obviously it's preseason, but watch Washington go down the field against Cincinnati in the preseason game. Took them 4 plays in the first drive, 3 plays in the second drive. Without Terry McLaurin and with their backup offensive line. They only had 2 guys who will be perceived starters on the offensive line, and one of them was Josh Connerly, who's a rookie, and the other is Andrew Wiley, who is probably going to end up backing up Josh Connerly. So, that defense is bad. Joe Burrow's already going to have to carry that team with the offense. I shouldn't say team, but that offense is really going to have to carry that defense already. You need Trey Hendrickson. They got him. You need to lock that up for a longer period of time. Get a long-term deal done. But it's good news for both Washington and Cincinnati. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that is the show. I hope you could tell the charisma was up a little bit more. The unfortunate circumstances didn't really apply today, so I was able to be a little bit louder, have more energy. I didn't think I seemed as rushed. The show still went a little long, 48 minutes, but we got a lot of stuff to get to. What do you want me to do about it? There's a lot of stuff going on. That's good. Sports, baby. We're back. We're so back. Oh, my goodness. So back. But I appreciate the support, guys. Please continue to follow me on Instagram. It's Boobie Sports Show. Just like that, straight across. Please like, comment, subscribe. Please leave comments. It really helps me get onto the Explore page. Really helps me develop the show, create new segments so it's not the same stuff. Tell me what you guys want to see, because I want to talk about what you want me to talk about. That's what's going to fuel this show. What y'all want to talk about is what I want to talk about, all right? Thank you for tuning in today. You heard me reference Wednesday show and Friday show. We're going to start moving to that schedule. It's going to be a show on Wednesday and a show on Friday. Wednesday's going to be more recap type of stuff. Friday's going to be more predictions. I'm going to do my best to keep to that schedule. I'm going to be busy, so announcements on that will be on my Instagram. So any content or anything, go check out the Instagram. Any announcements, it'll all be there. Cut off 16 minutes of time from the last show. I think that's pretty good. With that being said, I appreciate everyone tuning in. Thank you so much. God bless.